My name is Mario Vitanzi, and with me tonight is an individual that I have been begging to join me on altitude adjustment since the show started. Patrick Chiotti is out, and so I went and found the only person at Let's Talk Broncos with more sex appeal. They call him Joey Dix. That's Joey Richards. This is altitude adjustment.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.
So I don't know if tonight's episode is going to be as chaotic as it usually is. I don't know if you thrive on chaos, Joey, the way that
I'm out here.
Pat and I do. But you know what? You do a show with Zach Seegers, and I'm sure that comes with its own chaotic level to it. I can assure you this, though, at no point am I going to mute my mic. So that is not something that you need to worry about.
This is beautiful. I mean, Mario, listen, you brought up Let's Talk Broncos and Zach. I can only listen to so many analytics. I'm here. I'm ready for the altitude adjustment show. I want to be here.
Man,
I want to thrive in the chaos.
This is not a show for nerds, okay? We're not going to throw numbers at you. We're not going to do advanced analytics. We're not going to do any of the nerdy IT shit that comes with football that people think has a place in football. This is just going to be raw, unadulterated Denver Broncos takes. And we're going to start off hot, and we're going to break down the Jets game. And I just want to hit the ground running, Joey. And I'm going to start with the topic that I think is going to be a little bit divisive based on the tweet that I sent out when it happened and the subsequent responses from people that inexplicably think they know more about football than I do. But let's get into it. Sean Payton's decision to kick a 50-yard field goal in the rain and sleet, and giving the Jets field position. I had tweeted out before it happened, why are they doing this? And then I tweeted out afterwards, why the F did they attempt that? Of course, had some person was like, how would you have felt if they made it? Would you have felt the same way? It's like, well, that's a stupid thing. Like, what if I could fart a rainbow and write it to a pot of gold? Like, we don't exist in a world of weird hypotheticals. Like, he didn't make it. And instead of having to go 65, 70 yards for a field goal, the Jets had to go about 30, 35. Now, obviously, it's a moot point, and they won. Thank God that Zerline missed a 50-yard field goal just like Lutz did. But the fact that it came down to that really put me at dis-ease. So you tell me, Joey, in that situation, do you think that was the right call? Or would you have rather just like a little pooch punt, maybe get inside the 15 and 10?
No, yeah. I mean, I was saying at the time, and Mario was around a bunch of people I'm in a fantasy football league with, and I was saying that at the time. I was like, hey, I wouldn't kick this. I wouldn't do it. If our quarterback, Bo Nix, and he has these really big hands, right? That was a thing. I remember it. I don't have the exact measurements on hand. I'm keeping the numbers away because I'm on altitude adjustment today, and I'm away from Zach Seegers. So I don't know the numbers. I just know the big hands. The ball was slipping out of his hand that entire game. We had people
out of Rodgers. Hey, Rodgers threw a couple ducks too.
Yeah, he did. Especially when he was like throwing it away, you could tell the ball would slip plenty of times in that. So I was just looking at those conditions. A lot of the time at home, the cameras are so wild nowadays, you can't even tell that it's raining. Like I was sitting there tweeting about the game, and I'm like, yo, is it really raining that hard? I can't tell. Like what's you couldn't tell.
Right.
But just hearing from people that were at the game, it was crazy. I wouldn't have done it. And I was saying that at the time as well. I wouldn't have kicked it. And it's an interesting point because the Broncos ended up winning and nobody's talking about it because of it.
Not a single person has mentioned it, man. And it's still driving me crazy.
Yeah. No, yeah. Totally. Go ahead, Mario.
No, I was just going to say, I was at the game. It was raining / sleeting the entire game. It never stopped. Like, second half, it got a little bit better. Like, it slowed down. I had to go buy a freaking poncho because I was wildly unprepared. And I'll tell you this, man, and I think Sean Payton had even made a comment about it. The weather report did not say anything about rain. So I don't know if like both teams were unprepared, because I don't want to talk about the elements affecting Bo Nix, because at the end of the day, the team on the other side of the field, they're playing in the same conditions. So like, yeah, would Bo Nix have been better if it was a cleaner day? Yeah, absolutely. But then again, so would Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was having to deal with the exact same conditions. And so just in this specific scenario, like I understand the concept of like why you want to kick a field goal. Obviously, you go up by 4, then they have to march the length of the field. They have to score a touchdown instead of settling for a field goal. I get the logic, but the problem is that like the game isn't dictated on concrete pieces of logic, right? It ebbs and flows with the game.
Right.
The way that weather was, and you were right, like I know you couldn't tell on TV, it was bad. It was like constant sleet. Kicking a field goal in those conditions, no matter how good the kicker is, it's like you just never know. Like, is the ball going to be a little bit slick? Like, there was a little bit of wind. Is it going to push it? Is the rain coming down going to affect it at all? It's like, for me, there are too many variables, and it seemed like the obvious choice to just punt it. I don't care if it's a 20-yard punt. The way that your defense is played, it's like, give me the defense all day long. See, like in this sense, Joey, this is just me having more faith in our defense in these rainy conditions than the faith that I had in our kicker in these rainy conditions.
I totally agree. I mean, damn, if we had prime Justin Tucker, maybe this is a different conversation. But the Broncos don't have that. Like Will Lutz is cool. I'm happy with Will Lutz. I was the only one on the podcast that shouted him out when they got rid of Maher for him. I thought Maher was the Ben Simmons of kickers. that's what I was saying at the time. Like, hey, I don't want him in crunch time. No, I don't want him. But at the end of the day, he it's not like we have the most elite kicker of all time. I do see the point. And I was thinking of this at the time. I was like, this is a big confidence booster for your kicker. Obviously, Sean Payton has a ton of confidence in Will Lutz. You know what the issue is? And you pointed out, though, Mario, I don't care what your confidence for the kicker is like if he misses, because that just means you were wrong. Like, that's all that means. So
that's exactly what it means. It was the wrong decision.
It was not good. It wasn't good. And no one's talking about it because they ended up winning the game. It was ultimately a bad decision. So yeah, I think we just all need to give Vance Joseph a ton of credit, because where we could have got him maybe the ball at like the 10-yard line, right? If you just punted it, he had to get that ball down one with the Jets having good field position with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. He said, no, we're not doing all of that. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful from Vance Joseph. I don't like the decision from Sean Payton, if I'm being honest.
And speaking of the genius of Vance Joseph, and can we get to the point now where he's an evil genius? Because calling a safety blitz, a zone safety blitz on 4th and 10 and going cover 0 and then dropping back the linebacker, that's fucking maniacal. Like, what kind of psychopath do you have to be to dial that up in that situation? And it was so, like, it caught them off guard so much. Aaron Rodgers, a 37-year vet in this league, didn't see it coming. Breece Hall didn't see it coming. And I'll tell you this, I talked to a couple of the defensive players and I asked them about that. I was like, what did you think when that call came in? When you heard that you were going cover 0, like all out blitz, PJ was going. And one of the guys told me when Barton dropped back into coverage, he actually was not supposed to drop into coverage. Apparently, he read something, saw something that made him say, you know what, I'm not going, I'm dropping back. And maybe that was the linchpin, right? Because Breece Hall thought that he was coming. That's why Breece Hall was late picking up PJ and didn't even see him. But like, it kind of makes you wonder how many of these things kind of happen. And expanding on that, it's like, this is how well coached the defense has become. They don't have a superstar outside of Patrick Surtain. They have a lot of dogs. They have a lot of really good players. But Patrick Surtain's the only Pro Bowler, all pro
Right.
caliber player on that defense. Maybe you can make a case for Zach Allen, even though PFF acts like he completely doesn't exist. But I think the best thing about what Vance Joseph is doing is he's gotten 11 guys on the field at once who all know what they're doing. They all know their job. They all know their assignment, and they do their damn jobs. And I'll let you speak more on this, but I think the most impressive thing that I've seen from this defense, especially compared to last year, is how unbelievably good the front seven is. And that was something that Pat and I hammered repeatedly leading up to the season. We kept telling anybody that would listen that the interior defensive line would be greatly improved. And that's really been the linchpin to their success so far. It's gap integrity, staying in their lane, staying disciplined, and everything's kind of going from there.
I mean, you're totally right. They're even doing stuff that I didn't expect. And I did expect this Broncos front seven to play better than they did last year. Just looking at the additions they had to it, it is better than I thought, though. I think like Malcolm Roach, I thought I was getting a run defender only. Well, Malcolm Roach is getting after the quarterback a little bit. Like that's something that was unexpected. And I didn't know.
Yeah.
Zach Allen, he took like, he was damn good last year. I think he's taken like 2 steps forward this year. Zach Allen's been awesome, an amazing interior defensive lineman. You laid out that PFF thing. I don't know what they're doing over there. If you want any reason to discredit PFF, you can go look at the Broncos thing. Let's go check out Patrick Surtain and Zach Allen, who are most definitely, I don't even think it's close, our best defenders on this football team. And you think they are trash. You think they were trash. So I completely discredit those players.
They'll like post highlights and stat lines and shit of what they did, and it's like you might want to talk to like the people that are in your building because they clearly have no idea what's going on. And I'll tell you this too, man. Like I've had patients in the past, like Bronco players who invested in PFF and knew other players that invested in PFF, and I can unequivocally, without a doubt, tell you that the players that invest in PFF routinely have better scores than players who do not, and players who will like outwardly badmouth them. So I don't know if Zach Allen ever badmouthed PFF. I don't know if he fucked someone's wife that works at PFF, or if he like fucked all of their wives, because the slander,
it sounds like multiple. I'm not gonna lie.
It's got to be. It's the only logical explanation. It's either that, or they're just like straight up not watching the games, or they think Zach Allen is somebody else. Like maybe they think that Zach Allen is like John Franklin Myers, and they just don't know what they're looking at.
No, I mean it is ridiculous. That Mario, do you know if this is true too? Now that I have you here, and I can ask you. NFL teams, like, they'll use these PFF grades in like contract negotiations sometimes. Is this something you know about? I've heard this before, and I was curious about it.
It's kind of one of these things. So from my experience, what I've heard is even if players, so I'll just tell you, like Justin Simmons hated PFF scores, which was always funny because during the time of his contract negotiations, he was always one of the highest graded PFF safeties, right? And so like I think that speaks volume to like what PFF actually is, where it's like this guy's getting, like, rightfully so, like they're actually scoring him correctly. And I remember asking him specifically, like, hey man, you don't like PFF, you clown on them, but they have you at like a 90 plus every week. Do you think at least this can help you in contract negotiations? Like when you're trying to negotiate a new deal, which he was right in the middle of, this was the year he was playing on the franchise tag. And he's like, honestly, the only time that a PFF score will get brought up is to try and finesse a situation from the front office. So if the front office is trying to justify not paying a player as much as they think they're worth, they can use it technically in negotiations. But then more to that, it's like apparently routinely it's shut down. They're like, we're not going to base his value off of a PFF score where they have no idea what the assignments are. They have no idea really what coverage they're in. It's like you might have a general sense of what they're doing. And honestly, this isn't even really slander against PFF, but it's like you can't know what they're in. And it's like if you're disguising a lot of things and you have no idea what different assignments are, then you can't put a grade to that. So Yeah, when it comes up in negotiations, like based on what I've said, it's usually just for some sort of manipulation to make sure that they get the contract that they want. And I had even asked him, I was like, well, on the opposite end of that, could you guys go up to, the front office and say, have your agent say, hey, Justin is the highest rated safety on PFF. Surely that's worth something. And he's like, no, it carries no weight. So at least in that specific explanation,
Okay.
yeah,
So
it
they'll
holds
use
no
them
water.
like against the player, but when the player tries to use it in their favor, it's like that's a no go. These PFF dudes are stupid. You and I both know it. Is typical. It's typical front office NFL stuff.
It's just the game, man.
Yeah.
It's just they got to play the game. All right, so let's segue. We've already spent way too much time talking about the god awful PFF. This is like when Pat gets on one of his rants about Wattenberg, and it's like the scene from Simpsons where it's like, "Stop it! He's already dead." So if at some point, like since Pat isn't here, if you want to take up the mantle and slander Wattenberg, that's his favorite thing to do. So you just let
Totally
me
would.
know. But let's
I'll
finish
get I'll
talking.
get a little soliloquy ready for the Wattenberg.
I want to know your thoughts about the offense on Sunday. It's like obviously it's nice to get a win, and they don't ask how, they ask how many. But what Pat and I had discussed last week after the Tampa Bay win, and my question to him was, do you think the performance he had in Tampa Bay was closer to his floor or to his ceiling? In terms of like career arc. And we had both agreed it's like that needs to be a floor game. We're hoping it's a floor game. And then Sunday happens, and he freaking has 60 pass yards, -7 inexplicably in the first half, but throws a touchdown. And so, even though they got the win, even though Bo made the throws when he was absolutely necessary, what was your takeaway for this? It's like, what needs to change from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to even have takeaways from the passing offense when your quarterback is just like so clearly dealing with the weather issues. That was my main thing. Like I was sitting there, I was ready, Mario, to be like, yo, these Broncos, they need to add another playmaker on this team or whatever, right? How do I say that when Bo Nix is kind of like shot putting the football through
Yeah.
through
Even his
through the
touchdown
weather?
pass was an absolute duck.
Yeah, like how do I do it? How do I even point to the weapons or the pass protection or anything else? Especially when the run game actually finally took off a little bit this last week. Like it was more effective than weeks in the past when the quarterback is dealing with those weather issues so much. So for that reason, my main takeaway from this game was that I want to see him in the snow. That is my main takeaway. I know the rain and the snow. I had a lot of people because I commented about it. I'm like, hey, so this is a little concerning because the Broncos play outdoors and we're in Colorado and we see every season, all of them, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so I commented that, and there were plenty of people being like, "Yeah, but it's a little different than just the downpour that is in New York." And I thought about it. I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? That's true. Maybe this is something that happens once a game, and it is a little different than the snow, right?" So I do now want to see him play in the snow, though. Is this something that is an issue, or is it not? I'm not ready to go either way on it.
You
But
need more data.
that was my main takeaway from this game. Is just like I need to see Bo Nixon in weather now. I want to see him in different things than just than just than just this sunny weather we've had in Colorado and all the games leading up to this Jets game so far.
Well, I'll tell you this, Joey, as a 7-time intramural flag football champion on a team in which I was the quarterback in Boulder, I can confidently tell you that throwing in the snow and playing football in the snow is much easier than like a torrential downpour or rain. Like
Yeah.
rain is the number one type of weather that could make me look human when it came to intramural flag football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm laying it on pretty thick, so I hope people are picking up. I hope I hope they're not
Make you
taking
look
it too
human.
seriously. I did win 7 ships though. Like I will never apologize for bragging about that. No, man. Any final thoughts on this Jets game?
Yeah, I mean, other than the offense, can I move to the defense a little bit? Is that
Yeah.
cool? All right.
Yeah, dude.
Another takeaway I have is this was just another. Riley Moss did have the 2 PIs, which kind of are holding back his grade a little bit. But hey, we all have
They
eyes,
were
but we
bad
can
calls.
also just watch
Yeah.
football. That's another thing we can do. I think people forget that sometimes. Is we all have eyes, we can look at it. And Riley Moss again looked like a damn good cornerback for this Broncos team. This is huge. I really do think this is a big deal for the Broncos. You have Patrick Surtain, who you just paid, who's the best corner in the entire NFL. I really do believe that. I think he's better than Sauce Gardner, the guy we played last week. And now we get to pair him with a guy that, hey, so far through these 4 games, like he's very much outliving his contract, his rookie deal that he's on. And you get that for 2 more years. So if he just continues that for a while, you're getting a bargain there. You're getting a guy paired with the best cornerback in the NFL where you're not worried about. And then you have Jaquan McMillan. Who's the weak link in that cornerback room? I can't find him. And I think
it's not one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a big reason, Mario, why. I mean, you brought it up at the beginning of the show. Why Vance Joseph may feel so comfortable getting those cover 0 looks. Like we have these
100%.
3 corners that are going to lock down. I trust them, and I'm willing to put my faith in those guys and try to get after the quarterback in the meantime. So, hey, that was a big takeaway I had, was another game of Riley Moss looking really good to me.
Yeah, he absolutely held his own. And like you said, like we all know Patrick Surtain is the best cornerback in the NFL, and everybody knows that the corner on the opposite side is going to get tested. Man, think back a month and a half ago when we honestly had no idea who the number 2 corner was going to be. Like we're like, oh my God, is it going to be Mathis? Are we going to have to put up with that again? They brought in Levi Wallace. Is it going to be Wallace? Like we haven't seen Riley Moss play hardly at all. Is it going to be him? And so now you fast forward to today, and it's just like, man, this was obvious. And clearly this is what the team saw during training camp, right? This is what they had been accustomed to. And so seeing the progression of Riley Moss and what he was able to do between last year and this year is unbelievable. And I think the main thing to keep in mind here is he made that big of a jump between his first 2 years. I mean, how much better is he going to be? Like, if he continues on this upward trajectory, you could have 2 number 1 corners. And he's always going to take a back seat to Patrick Surtain, but he's also going to get way more opportunities as a corner. I'm also really glad that you brought up Jaquan McMillan, because when you're in a cornerback room with Pat Surtain, best corner in the league, and the only white cornerback that exists in the NFL currently right now, you're not going to get a lot of attention. And it's crazy because you could make an argument that Jaquan McMillan is a top 5, maybe top 3 slot corner in this league, and nobody talks about him. There's a small contingent of Bronco fans, like on Broncos Twitter, that I've seen, like they give Jaquan his flowers, and people who understand ball give him his flowers. But I don't think you could say enough good things about Jaquan, because what he's been able to do out of the slot, like he erases the slot receiver.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And another aspect of his game, did you guys see his tackling this last week? Phenomenal. When you're
everybody.
He was on everybody. He was coming down to hitting folks. He really was. He was really good in that aspect. And when you're playing close to the line of scrimmage, that's a big deal. Like it's always a beautiful thing, Mario, for a DB, when I'm sitting there and I'm not hearing your name much because of plays going against you, but I'm hearing your name a lot because of the plays you're making. And that was McMillan this last week. He was all over the field making tackles, and there was never a point in that game where I was sitting there, that was a given up pass by Jaquan McMillan right there. There was never a time. He was just balling from start to finish of that game. The Broncos DBs were amazing. And honestly, the ball did fall out of Aaron Rodgers' hands sometime. I said this on Let's Talk Broncos. I level these differently. I think Bo Nix was dealing with the weather a lot worse than Aaron Rodgers was. I give a lot of credit to the Broncos defense versus Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of my
100%. Yeah. Dude, the pressure was there. 5 sacks against Aaron Rodgers. It felt like he was being pressured relentlessly throughout the entire game, especially on that last series. I mean, yeah, you can't say enough good things about it. One question here from Sean: would you rather have a ball hawk Sherman type guy or a lockdown Ramsey type guy? Because Moss feels like more like a ball hawk than a lockdown. You know, that's a good question, Sean. But honestly, I think it's difficult to just like have those two general categories. In terms of a cornerback. I think with some cornerbacks, they're going to try and bait quarterbacks into making mistakes and they're going to have more interceptions, but they're also going to give up a lot more bigger plays. Like Diggs comes to mind over in Dallas. It's like, yeah, a couple years ago, he led the league in interceptions. I think he had a couple pick sixes. Deron Bland was the same way last year.
yeah.
And then Joey, who was the dude? I'm spacing on his name, but I can see his face. He started with the Chiefs, went to the Ravens, bounced around a little bit.
Marcus
Felt
Peters.
like he had
Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters. That's like the Marcus Peters, where it's like guys like that are going to make the Pro Bowl. They're going to be in the NFL top 100, but they give up a lot of catches and they give up a lot of yards. So if that's like your definition of a ball hawk, then give me lockdown corner all day, every day, because I would rather dudes have stat lines like the receivers who are going up against Pat Surtain than I would have guys where it's like, oh yeah, they finished with 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown, but he got an interception at one point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. The lockdown is more important to me. I'd rather you just not even want to throw to that side of the field. Like, don't even, don't, like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you could tell that the Jets desperately tried to get Garrett Wilson away from Patrick Surtain. They put him in motion all game long, and I honestly don't think that they were prepared for Pat to, like, legit follow him. And I think it's because the number one corner that they have in New York, he stays on one side. And there's nothing wrong with that. Richard Sherman did that too. But there are the Patrick Surtains and the Darrelle Revises of the world. And then there are the Sauce Gardners of the world. For most other corners, like Sauce Gardner, you put someone in motion, he's probably not going to follow him. Patrick Surtain followed Garrett Wilson all over that damn field. There were only a handful of plays that they actually did get him away from him.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, when you, I did even like they tried to even the times they passed on him, Mario, they tried to isolate him. Do you remember that slant they tried to hit with Garrett Wilson? It was just a complete isolation, man on man. We have Garrett Wilson in the slot. We have Patrick Surtain now at nickel guarding Garrett Wilson. It was a PBU. Hey, I don't want to break the news to everybody. This is just
and it was a great route. It was just better coverage.
Yeah, this is what he does. So he's awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, that's you.
Well, I'm just going to say one last thing that I wanted to mention and get your take on in this game, and then we can preview the Raiders game coming up. The fumble that we all knew was a fumble, and the Broncos didn't have a challenge. I didn't see the replay of the Garrett Wilson catch down the sideline. The timeline said that his knee was out of bounds. Sound like it could have gone either way. But at that point, you don't have a challenge. And it was pretty clearly a fumble. It was pretty clearly a Broncos recovery, and it would have been a touchdown.
Huge.
So I guess my thing is, you have the technology to make sure that there is literally never a missed call in the NFL. So my hot take right now, and I will die on this hill, is that coaches' challenges should not exist. You should not have to challenge a play when you have every conceivable angle that you could ever want for this game. And you have people in the booth actively watching these plays. And you're telling me that these people who can see a play 4 inches away can't radio down to the officials and say, oh, hey, by the way, that's a fumble. Oh, hey, by the way, that's a first down. In fact, Joey, they started doing it. They started doing it with the spots when it comes to first downs, so that they're not using the chain gang to measure as much. So if they have the capability to do that, and they're calling it like a rapid review or whatever it is, why the fuck do coaches challenges exist? Why the fuck do we exist in a world where an entire game will go by? In that game, Joey, there was at least 10 or 12 bad calls and for both teams, deliberately missed calls. But something like that, that's a touchdown for the Broncos that gets wiped out because they blow the whistle too early, even though they have the technology to get everything right.
Should have been a touchdown. Should have been a touchdown. Yeah, you bring up a good point, because I'm sitting here trying to figure out how many plays a game would even have to be like reviewable, or how many plays a game am I sitting there challenge that as a Broncos fan? It's really not that many. It's not as many as I feel like we pretend.
Maybe a few a game.
Yeah, exactly. A few. Me personally, I'd rather just get the play right and get that called right, rather than everyone complains about the time. Oh, I get so tired of the time and everybody takes so long. I don't think it even happens that much where they would have to review the play. You see how fast every touchdown's reviewed. How many times are we actually sitting there watching the replay 1,000 times trying to figure out if it was a touchdown or not? It's usually just a pretty quick, hey, we're getting this PAT off. It would be very similar. I would rather just get the play right. I don't care. So, yeah, I think you're right on that, Mario. I really do, actually. Now I'm sitting here thinking about it. First time I thought about it, though, but you're right.
Stick with me, kid. You'll learn something. All right, dude. It's Raider week. Finally, after all this time, after all the waiting, we get to see the Denver Broncos in their perfect throwback uniforms. And this is your birthday weekend, correct? Coming up?
It was this last weekend, and then
oh shit! Happy belated! You're celebrating this weekend.
I'm celebrating it. Yeah.
Oh, so I was gonna say, like, the Broncos will win for your birthday, but they already did that, so we can't use that. Can Zach fix this in post? Can I maybe ask Zach to fix this? Fuck it, he's not going to do it anyway.
The only thing that could have offset a Broncos win, I pretty much never lose on my birthday weekend, whatever my birthday week. We usually win that weekend. The only thing that possibly could have set it off is the Zach Seegers or Bree Maces being at the stadium at that time, and thank God it was an away game. Are
they bad luck if they're terrible together at the stadium?
It doesn't even have to be together. I don't know if we have to go through and look at the Broncos record while Zach Seegers was credentialed. Not good. That's just something I have to throw out there. But yeah.
So this is all Zach's fault. Like, people wanted to blame Nathaniel Hackett and Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph when he was the head coach and the lack of quarterbacks. When really, at the end of the day, it's freaking Zach Seegers' fault.
It was Zach Seegers in a press box. That was the issue this whole time.
The ultimate scapegoat. I'm so glad that I know that. So Broncos probably would have made the playoffs, but Zach's mere presence in the press box ruined everything. You hate to see it.
It really was. They probably were checking those tweets at halftime. I don't know the correlation. I just know it didn't end good. It was bad.
Thanks for nothing, Zach. Zach up there with his little polo shirt and his fucking analytics.
Yeah, the players are sitting there reading the numbers at halftime. They get confused. All of a sudden, they don't know the plays. It's bad.
Dude, look at this chart that has different players' names in different places, and it's going to tell us everything that we need to know about it. And it consists of 6 different letters, and this is what it stands for. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a graph, so it's very visually appealing.
You want to know a funny story, Mario? I always say this on Let's Talk Broncos. I said when the Nuggets went to the playoffs, I was like, thank God Zach wasn't there for that one because they lost the one before. I always say it. I was in the line at TSA taking a trip to Chicago, and the guy at the TSA stopped me and was like, thank God Zach wasn't at yesterday's game. And it was so funny.
TSA agent recognized you, and not just recognized you, but recognizes that Zach is terrible luck. And it's just like he's just like a black cloud. A black
Yeah.
cloud just follows him everywhere that he goes.
It was right when the Nuggets pushed the Timberwolves to 7. It was the game before. It was 6. We need to check up on Zach if Zach was at that Game 7 game. I don't know.
So Zach just needs to stay his ass home for everything. Stop leaving your house.
Yeah.
Well, and it's Joey. It's either that or he damn near dies choking on some nachos. Like the kid needs to just be put in a bubble.
Please, God, somebody help us out. I mean, damn.
Who would have thought that Zach was catching strays for this show and not Luke Wattenberg? That's incredible. I guess Patrick likes to go after Wattenberg, and you like to go after Seegers. Everybody has their nemesis. Preview this Raiders game for me. How do you see this panning out?
Oh man, the Raiders kind of seem like a mess. For all the people on Twitter who, when we put a graphic out, shout out to LTB Munoz, he was fighting for us. He was fighting for his life out there. It was bad. When we put that little score prediction graphic out, Mario, they were on our ass. I don't know if you saw that.
I know, man.
On our ass. This is going to be a week. I picked the Broncos, though. The Raiders, mess. They're a hot mess. They always are.
You know what the problem is, man? I picked the Broncos to win the first 2 weeks and they lost. So my logic was, and I'm very superstitious. Like you can say that this shit doesn't matter, but like in my own warped reality, I'm like, me picking against the Broncos on the LTB choice thing that we shoot out there, it somehow affects their play. And until I'm proven wrong, I will believe in my heart of hearts that I have complete control over the outcome of this game. And I tried to explain it like before the game even started. I quote tweeted out and I said I had to pick against the Broncos because I picked against them against the Bucks and they won. And I have to continue this trend. And if people find out that this is my trend and I believe in it, and I inexplicably pick the Broncos to beat the Raiders this week and they lose, that's on me. It's not on Sean Payton. It's not on Vance Joseph. It's not on Bo Nix. It's on Mario Vitanzi. And so I will fall on that grenade for Broncos country. So I'm going to say it here and now that I think the Broncos are going to win, and I think it's going to be a statement win. And I think that like this is going to be a potential breakout game for the offense where everything really starts to click. They're not settling for field goals. The running game gets going. Like I think Javonte is back. Like it really feels like rookie year Pookie is back. McLaughlin also looked good, but his performance was a little bit overshadowed by Javonte. And I think everything starts to gel with Bo, and it's going to be because of two reasons. The fact that they're wearing those gorgeous throwbacks, and it's just going to look pretty, everything that they do. And the fact that on the graphic, I will pick the Raiders to win. And I just want to have it. I just wanted to be said on the show that the Broncos are winning this game, but I am picking against them for the sake of the team. And like I said, I will continue to do so as long as it benefits the team.
We might need somebody to clip this. It might be me. And we might need to post this under the graphic or something. I don't know how we get people through. You know what's even more ridiculous, Mario? Now I'm just sitting here fighting people on Twitter, which is ridiculous for a podcast, but I'm doing it. All of us had the Broncos covering damn near. All of us. So now okay, I'm going to move on, but I'm going to have the Raiders winning.
No. Use what you want to say. Like this show doesn't have any rules, Joey. You go ahead.
Okay. We all had the Broncos covering. For all you idiots on Twitter, let me say this right now. They were the second biggest underdog of the entire week. All of us had them covering. Every single person. My bad. I didn't pick the Broncos to win 10-9. What the hell? Like, I'm so sorry. Bro, it's ridiculous. People want me to nail the score prediction. They don't understand it's a competition. Like, if everybody's picking them, I might go the other way just to get a boost in my score rating so I could come out at the end of the year as the number one. That's another facet people don't understand is that I'm trying to win because I'm a competitive person, right? Like we have all these different factors going in the score prediction thing. Meanwhile, you got people online talking about, don't listen to these idiots. how could they not predict the Broncos to win 10-9? How could they not do that? I mean, anybody who's anybody had the Broncos winning 10-9. It was ridiculous.
The LTB music just cracks me up. No, dude, you're 100% right. And it's just like I get it. Like I want to pick. Here's the thing: I want to pick the Broncos every single week. But it's like to me, it's no longer a competition. When we did this last season, I think we started maybe like a third of the way through the season. Like I won that, okay? The LTB group, we did an NCAA tournament bracket, okay? I won that, all right? I was voted best looking in all of LTB. It's like, I'm sick of winning everything, dog, okay? It's like like enough is enough, okay? I'm stepping aside and I'm putting my own reputation at risk here, and then I'm opening the door for someone else because the greater good of the team is more important to me, okay? That is my number one prerogative because when you've won as much as I have with everything involved with LTB, it's just like there's no parity that exists in our group, man. So it's like I hope that you end up winning, or I hope that Bree ends up winning. Honestly, anybody but Zach and Frankie, like anybody else that would win, I would be so psyched about.
Listen. I personally, I don't remember the Mike Carminelli, the best looking Broncos media member poll. I don't remember that one. A lot of these things you mentioned.
This was a private poll that was held behind closed doors.
Yeah, it was part of the Mario Vincenzi Fantasy League poll, maybe.
Specifically, it wasn't like even best looking. It was like most sex appeal.
You're just enhancing it. I love it. I would need to see a proof of concept. I would love to know who's voting on it. I know Broncos fans. I mean, this is probably Broncos Twitter. My followers are probably, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to move on from that topic.
RTB News wants to hear a bold take from Mario. So I'm going to ask you, do you want a bold take like with this game, or just like a general bold take? So go ahead and comment, LTB News. Tell me what you want.
I want one of each, Mario. That's me personally for this podcast.
All right, one of each. All right, yeah, he said yeah with this game. All right. Okay. My bold take for this game is that 5 different players are going to have a sack. They are going to turn the Raiders over 3 times, and they once again hold the Raiders under 10 points. So this will be the 3rd straight game that they held the team to single-digit points.
Okay, that would be a fantastic one. That would be amazing if Vance just kept this up. I was asking Zach on yesterday's podcast whether it's sustainable to blitz as much as Vance Joseph is and continue the success he's having right now, or if he's going to, it's going to come down a little bit because he's number one, like pretty much. Like he's top 4 on
pretty substantially, right?
Yeah, like he's top 4 on first down in blitzes. He's top 4 on second down in blitzes, third down, fourth down, and all the down. Vance Joseph is blitzing. So like it'll be interesting to see. I love it so far. I mean, this is amazing. He's taking over Brian Flores as the madman of the NFL at defensive coordinators. Is good.
Dude, I love that comparison because I see stuff every week from Brian Flores, and I'm like, this dude is an absolute batshit madman for running the concepts that he does. But then when you look at Vance Joseph, man, it's like he's not too far off. Like he's kind of developing that reputation, and it kind of gets back to what we were talking about earlier, Joey. The reason that he's able to blitz at this rate and call a game the way that he is because A, like Patrick Surtain is wiping out one entire side of the field. But B, you also have a secondary corner who's holding his own. And most importantly, honestly, in my opinion, is the factor of Jaquan McMillan. It's like when you're blitzing and the quarterback picks up on that. He's looking to get rid of the ball quick, right? Like, where's the blitz coming from? That's typically where you're throwing it at. And more
Yeah.
often than not, like, you want to look at the slot because he's in your range of vision. So because you have three exceptional cover corners currently as it stands, and two aggressive safeties that can come down and make plays in the box, and ever since the first couple of weeks, like, tackling has been much better on the back end from PJ and from Brandon. When you have that perfect recipe, it's like you can continue to blitz. And so as long as they're getting the coverage on the back end that they've been getting, I don't think the blitzing is going to slow down.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you're right about that. Like, as long as these corners are playing like they are, why not? Like, if they're buying you an extra second of time, or they're taking away that initial read, because that's really what it is. If you're bringing more
That's
than the
exactly
other
what it
team
is.
can block, it's hey, that initial hot read. If we got that covered, we're good. So yeah,
Joey, I'm going to put this one on you because I know you're more of a film guy than me. Um, for the super chat, LTB Muse wants you to slander Luke
I
Wattenberg for
can't do
Coach
it
Pat.
like Pat. That's the issue. I can't slander Luke Wattenberg like Pat. I don't have the passion like Pat does for slandering Luke
All right,
Wattenberg.
I have a one liner that I've been working on
All
with
right,
Wattenberg, and I'll
please.
probably end up dropping it again with Pat. But it's like the problem with Wattenberg is he has no drive. He's a pedestrian. Call that man an Uber.
That's mad disrespectful, man. Hey, well, we just burned. If Pat didn't already do it, Mario secured it. Luke Wattenberg will not be coming on the Let's Talk Broncos program. I mean, he's a great guy from what I hear, but not a good football player. So it needs to be said.
I want to wrap up with Joey, and this was technically the title of the episode that Zach came up with, so we should probably get to it. There's been some talk and some speculation about potential trade targets, and so names like Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, which I don't see Adams happening. Like, they're not going to trade him within the division. You wouldn't think. Of course, it's the Raiders, so who knows? Kyle Pitt's name was thrown around. Pat had even told me he's like like Mark Andrews. I know it's a pipe dream, but something like that. And so with where we're at right now, Joey, is there any one of those names, or there's maybe another name that you would like to address that you would like the Broncos to see make a move for at the trade deadline? And would it be wide receiver, tight end, both? Talk me through that.
I think either or, really. It just kind of depends on the situation and what I need to give up. A name I haven't seen thrown out there, Pat, or Mario. Sorry, I was reading.
I'm Mario. Yeah, no, I'm the other guy.
Here's one. There's a lot of Amari Cooper trade rumors out there. If they're truly selling, I would love David Njoku at tight end. That's
yeah.
That would be amazing. I'll also take Amari Cooper. I really will. If it is in that range where I'm not giving up like serious premium draft picks, I don't think I would really this year. He's had plenty of drops. He hasn't been the most productive. He had one really great game. Weeks before that, he's had drops. People are wondering. I've seen Brown's analysts be like, "Hey, what's up with the Amari Cooper this year?" I've seen that. Still, I'm willing to give it a shot just because even with his issues, I think it upgrades this wide receiver room. Even if it isn't just like hey, this is just a bad stretch and he continues on that, he's better than a lot of the Broncos wide receivers. He gets open at will. He's like what people thought Jerry Jeudy was, but he can kind of catch through contact. Like that's Amari Cooper. So I would really be happy with him. If they got David Njoku, that would be amazing at tight end if he was available. And I would definitely kick the tires there and just see if he is.
So that's kind of what D Bronx is saying here. I'd rather this team trade for a functional tight end. Dulcich makes Bo's life 10 times harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Thoughts on that, Joey? Like, would you address the tight end, and like aside from Njoku, because I don't know how realistic that would be. Like, would you consider a Pitts, even though Pitts, I mean, he's a far cry from what we were told he was going to be
Yeah.
coming out of Florida. Or do you
Yeah.
think, oh, well, maybe if they trade for Pitts and, he plays like the Jimmy Graham type role for Sean Payton, that maybe that's a factor. Like maybe he's just like a short yardage / red zone type of target. Or would you want more of like a conventional tight end who can block? And it's like, yeah, then occasionally you can have like a decent pass catcher.
I think the Broncos most need a blocking tight end. That's why Kyle Pitts doesn't really interest
Doesn't move
me.
the needle.
It doesn't move the needle for me because ever since he had those injuries in the NFL in his sophomore year, he's just not the same guy. I don't know when we're just going to get over it and say Kyle Pitts isn't the same guy. Super explosive, ridiculously explosive tight end out of Florida. And then even his first year in that pros, he extremely explosive, damn near wide receiver tight end. It just isn't the same anymore. He doesn't move like that. And we finally need to give up on it. Everyone likes saying, oh, hey, what is this guy going to look like a year away from injury? We're damn 3 years away from Kyle Pitts' injury now. We just need to give up. I'm sorry about it. Yeah, we need to give up. I'm over it. If it happens, good for him. I hope it does for him. And I just think it should be on another team. I don't know what he adds. Like, we have Parham on the practice squad.
I was just going to ask you about Parham. Like, is he just learning the playbook? Like, do we think that he can be a feasible option? Because I'm telling you, man, it's like, I feel like I never really see Troutman on the field. Dulcich is out there, and I see him miss a lot of blocks, and I think I can count on two hands how many catches he's had this year. Like, would only need two hands to do that. I assume it's somewhere around like 5 or 6 or something like that. You're like, I have a hard time believing that Parham wouldn't be at least as good. And like, he's a bigger body and he's a vet, so it's like I would trust him more. Like, is he just learning the offense? What seems to be the holdup here?
I don't know. I don't know what's the holdup there. I don't know if they just think Dulcich is better, but you would hope to think that if they think Dulcich is better, he'd be having a little more production than he does right now.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Because
Victory Lab.
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Victory Lab said, Kroll, what happened to this guy? Listen, Victory Lab.
Cecil Lamb-Gassier, that's what happened.
I like exactly. Exactly, Joey. I like Lucas Kroll. I've been told by people that I look like him. I don't see it, but I really appreciate the sentiment. Obviously have similar builds, 6'5", 265, pretty solid muscle range, like very similar type of people. But like you said, man, Cecil Lammy is the only person that thought that Lucas Kroll was going to be like a serviceable NFL tight end and nothing more than like a depth piece / practice squad guy. It's like, if there's one person that you shouldn't be listening to personnel about, it's Cecil Lammy, the guy that he acts like he's friends with all of the players, and none of them can stand his ass.
This is great being on Altitude Adjustment. I'm just like, filter. I'm on here. I think he was one thing I will say. He was dead wrong about Lucas Kroll. That's one thing I can say. Where he went up there and he was talking about, hey, Sean Payton, this Lucas Kroll guy. That's the player, by the way, in the mini camp or whatever. And Sean Payton looked at him and was like, who were you just talking about right now? Can you repeat that for me? Because I don't think I heard it right. I mean, that was all your indication you needed on that guy. It wasn't just like, yeah, he's playing pretty good. No,
he shut that shit down so quick. And I'll say this, like, Sean Payton's a dick. Okay, Sean Payton does not handle a lot of situations very well, but the one thing that I will say I really do like about him when it comes to these post-game press conferences or just like these press conferences in general, you could tell the people in the media who go out of their way to try and make sure that everybody knows how smart they are. And those dudes, and the reason that they do that is because they're insecure about what they actually know. And so when you get them asking a question where it's like that, like it wasn't even really a question, right? It was like Cecil making a statement and then basically wanting Sean Payton to agree and kind of like reinvigorate what he is talking about. Sean Payton doesn't do that, okay? If you say something stupid and you try to use your platform as uh like a what's the thing that you stand on? It's the
Podium?
soapbox. You
The
try to
soapbox.
use it as holy shit. When I've been wearing these glasses for an entire show, my brain starts to like my spatial reasoning goes off and my brain doesn't fire. When you're up on your soapbox and they're trying to like make it about them, Sean Payton shuts that shit down. So that's the thing that I love the most about Sean Payton, and it's usually the same kind of guys who are out on Twitter or they're out on their little radio shows that nobody listens to anymore because that's a dying medium, and they try and make it seem like they're the experts. But then when push comes to shove and they try to act like the expert in front of Sean Payton, he embarrasses the shit out of them.
Yeah, here's another thing. I don't know who needs to hear this. When people are applying for these media jobs at companies, right? These big companies, whatever the company may be, on the resume, it's not like they're not taking like, hey, what's a cover 2 defense X and O's quiz? I don't know who people think these guys are or whatever. Like, I'm talking about the whole media landscape. I really am. I don't care. I don't know who people think these guys are. When they get hired in these jobs, nobody's taking a test on them like, hey, give me your top 5 corners. It's isn't how it works. No,
dude.
No. They don't give a damn whether they know football or not. They don't care.
Dude,
it's not what it is.
Do you honestly think that Troy Rank knows what duo is? No, he's a fucking Rockies beat reporter, okay?
Yeah. Nobody. It's the last thing anyone cares about. And you can tell right when you turn on your TV, go to ESPN and watch what happens. And that'll give you all the answers. That trickles down all the way down. It doesn't stop at local media.
Exactly. Anybody else that you want to talk shit about? You here? should Zach? What do you need to get off your chest about Zach?
Nothing. I really do love Zach. I like just teasing him.
I do too.
Zach is the man.
I do have a question. Who would win in a fight between you two? Because I know you both think that you could beat up a kangaroo. And I'm going to ask it differently so we don't make it weird, okay? You both think that you could take a kangaroo in a fight. That's been well documented.
Absolutely.
If each of you got into a fight with a kangaroo, who would beat up on the kangaroo worse? We'll ask it that way. Explain yourself. Is it just like your reach? Is it just like you've got a better build than Zach?
Yeah,
like, are you more?
I just kind of know it. Like a kangaroo doesn't scare me whatsoever. Let's start here. Matter of fact, when this conversation first got brought up, Zach was like, I don't know. I was the one that was full force. No, Zach, I need you to step your confidence up. You could beat up this kangaroo. Ever since he's like, yeah, you know what? Because I gave him some good points. Like, could you imagine playing UFC, but the only other button that the other person has is triangle, because all the kangaroo can do is kick. I gave him some good points like that, and then he was like, you know what? You're right. Like,
wait, so his delusions of grandeur stem from you.
They do, because Mario, you got to think about it. Has a kangaroo ever seen a juke? No. These kangaroos, if you've ever seen them fight each other, they just go straight into each other and start kicking each other in the stomach. One thing I'm not gonna do. Let me tell you this right now. What I'm not gonna do is get into kicking competition with the kangaroo. That's not my strategy. Like, and that's all they knew. That's all they know. So yeah, I'm good. I would definitely win. I think a head fake, maybe even going left or right, would beat the kangaroo.
Juking a kangaroo.
Me and you too. LTP Muse is juking a kangaroo. Everybody in here is juking a kangaroo. They've never seen anything go left or right. They only go straight into each other. It's bad. What's that wide receiver? He couldn't go left or right either.
How far back are you thinking? Is this
Warren
like
Jackson.
is this like a current guy? Right. You mean like John Ross?
Yeah,
straight line guy like John Ross.
Not even straight line because he's not even fast. You just can't turn left or right. That's what
like an Ashley Lally type.
I'm talking about, like a Warren Jackson from CSU type, just tall.
Oh, okay. Just big body dude that has no other gear.
Yeah, that's a kangaroo hopping around.
This is the show derails every week, and this is the best derailment that the show has ever experienced. Oh, there's a good one. Dorial Green Beckham, man, D Bronx. That's a fucking deep cut. Well done. Joey, thanks so much, man, for joining me. Before I get you out of here, and I appreciate your time so much. You know, I've been trying to get you on the show for months, and I feel like I finally have, like, Altitude Adjustment has finally reached I want to say the pinnacle. Like, I finally got popular enough to convince you to join me on this show. And so I appreciate you so much, man. Anything else you want to get off your chest? Like, while we have you on Altitude Adjustment and the filter is off, anything else, any other hot takes that you want to say, that you want to just free range, baby, whatever you want?
I do. I have one thing to say. I think that if you don't think you can beat up a kangaroo, and I'm not talking about those Kimbo Slice GMO kangaroos. I'm not talking about the ones that are in the weight rooms. I'm talking about the normal kangaroo. It's a confidence issue. That's my take on that. It's more so just like, hey, I need you to up your confidence. That's my take there.
That's a fantastic way to end the show. It's like Joey Richards just telling you to believe in yourself. Go ahead and plug everything that you do real quick, Joey.
Yeah, please make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the podcast. I go live every Monday and Wednesday. If you guys like the Colorado Buffs, I go live with Carter Dillon, who's amazing. Make sure you guys are subscribing to Let's Talk Buffs. And if you guys care about Twitter, you guys can follow me at LTP Joey, which LTP Muse has a profile picture of me. There you go.
Man, thank you so much again for your time. The hour flew by. Tell your Tinder date that I apologize for, stealing your attention, but you can get back to it right now. Finish your business and have a great weekend celebrating your birthday, buddy, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
We'll see y'all next week. Goodbye. Love you.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money.